Hey guys, welcome back to Inside the Five. It's Stav,
It's Griff.
And it's Will.
and today we're going to be talking about the NBA playoffs, a little recap of the games that have happened, MLB talk, focusing on the Red Sox, of course, and we're going to talk about some NFL news that happened.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Inside the Five. Game 2 of the Boston Celtics versus the Milwaukee Bucks series has officially ended, and we are now tied in this series 1-1. The Celtics beat the Bucks 109-86. Jaylen Brown, a very impressive first half. Didn't do as well in the second half. Stav, was this a perfect game from the Celtics, or are we going to be able to continue this throughout the series?
I'm nervous that it's an anomaly. They shot 65% from three in the first half, which I don't want to say we'll see that again. Um, for I was listening to the radio before, and they brought up an interesting point. Two times in the regular season, the Celtics shot more threes than twos, or made more threes than twos, and that's happened in both games against the Bucks. So we've seen both sides of the coin here, where game one we missed all of them, and then game two we hit all of them, and then we win. So I don't know what to really think. Obviously, I'm very happy that we won. We lost home court advantage, however, which really does stink against the Bucks. However, I think we will take that back. I think we're going to split again in Milwaukee, but they got to figure out a way to get easy baskets, man. I mean, I feel like they're just passing up open shots in the paint with the fear of getting blocked. I mean, Will, I don't know if you agree with that, but I feel like every single time they're under the hoop, they're just kicking it out for three.
No, I totally agree. And I agree with what you said about like one, we shot really, really well last night. And I don't expect us to shoot like that probably again this series that well. We're going to shoot consistently good, I think, for the rest of the series. I think we found our rhythm. I think we kind of just we were riding high. We swept the Nets, coming in, we had high expectations and we kind of got humbled for a second. Like, which I mean, it can happen. We're also playing a good interior defensive team, and we're going to be forced to take those threes. Like, and we see what happens, what we can do when we make our shots. Like, even if we just made a portion of those shots in game one, like technically, game two is what game one should have been if we were actually just somewhat on. We would have won that game. So it like obviously we can't go back and be like, oh well, it should have been 2-0. Now it's 1-1, and we have two crucial games in Milwaukee that we have to win. I expect us to shoot somewhere in the middle between game one and game two, game three, and probably for the rest of the series. But I mean, we need to be able to come back, make those threes, and try to get some good drives in the paint and set the tone, because that's what's really going to set us up in the future of the series and the future of the playoffs. And we obviously played without Marcus Smart last night, which was Jaylen Brown filled in right in the first half. He started off super hot. Grant Williams, I mean, he went off last night too. What did he make? Like, how many threes did he make last night?
I think he made 7, right?
Yeah,
He
I
had,
was
he
gonna
had
say seven.
21.
Honestly, it felt something crazy. It didn't feel right saying, but like, yeah, like he made 7 threes, which is crazy. So I mean, I feel like I feel like last night, which I think I said before, was the momentum game, was the must-win game. I feel like that's off of our shoulders now. We just need to
Yeah.
stay consistent.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a must-win game. You don't want to go into Milwaukee down 0-2 because, I mean, who knows if we'll even be back in the Garden come game 5 if you not only lose home court but also lose game 2 at home. At that point, the series is pretty much over. This was a big game because game 1 we got blown out. Game 2 we came out. We showed that, I mean, we're going to blow them out better than they did in game 1. But this isn't something that's going to happen every game this series. I'm expecting this game to go 7. And I think that the two blowouts of this series are over. I think the rest of the way it's going to be pretty tight, pretty close games. And we saw, I mean, a great performance. We put up 65 points in the first half. And we had a fantastic, I think, in my opinion, just watching the game, our best quarter by far was the second quarter, which is kind of what we've seen literally not even throughout just the year, but throughout like Jason Tatum's whole career. I feel like this brand of the Celtics, we're such a good second quarter team, and then first half of the third quarter, and then we seem to fall apart. But yesterday, at the day of this recording, we only put up 18 points in the third quarter. That's a no-no, especially if you're going into Milwaukee. we need to be scoring at least 20 points a quarter, and I'd say even more than that. The good thing is we had a big cushion going into the second half. That's something that you really want. And talking about Marcus Smart being out, it's kind of interesting when you think of Marcus Smart being out. We weren't really as concerned, I feel like, as a fan base about, excuse me, about losing game two. Derek White filled in, scored 0 points, but had a plus minus of plus 22. Now I don't know Marcus Smart's status for game three. Is there a status?
I don't think
I don't
yet, but
think
I
so.
assume he's gonna play.
Yeah. If not, my guess would be that he's going to be back for game four. I think Derek White did a pretty good job against Drew Holiday. Now, Drew Holiday hit a couple of tough shots, but other than that, he didn't really have the performance that he did in game one. And as for Giannis, I mean, we talked about Grant Will on the offensive side, but we all know how great he did on defense. He was honestly really the spark plug that he needed, and I'm expecting Grant Williams to be that guy throughout this series. Now, I know it sounds weird. But in terms of that, I'm saying he's going to be that guy that's going to do literally all he can on the floor. He's going to give it all he has, and he does a great job against Giannis. It went to the point where they were trying to set up screens to switch him off of Grant Williams onto Rob Williams, and then Rob Williams would clamp him too. Rob Williams, I'm kind of nervous for because he's just so like jumpy in a sense where like we saw a Pat Connaughton bucket, where he kind of went over for a reverse. Rob Will went for a block, just completely missed and ran into Peyton Pritchard. And that's where all the injuries come from. So I think we just need to secure down, kind of loosen up and get into the feeling that we're in round two. And then we're going to be right back to the way we're playing basketball. We're not going to be shooting as good as we were in game two, but we're still going to be shooting pretty dang good.
Oh no, I 100% agree. And I like the fact that you brought up Derek White's performance because although he had 0 points, it didn't feel like he wasn't. It was a negative contribution because his presence on the court is always felt defensively, and he was making a lot of good plays, like a lot of things that aren't going to show up in the stat sheet, like driving, like forcing the defense to collapse and then kicking. Like although he might not get assists, he would get hockey assists where kick it to one guy in the corner and swing back around. And the Celtics ball movement last night was awesome. And it started on the first possession of the game where they swung the ball around. Everyone touched it. Like I feel like almost every possession in the first half, everybody touched the ball. And that's something we didn't really see in game one. We saw a lot of ISO ball. We saw a lot of first half of the year Boston Celtics. But then game two in the first half, I thought it was the perfect half. Giannis shot 1 of 10 or 2 of 10 or something like that. And a thing I don't want to say, I'm kind of biting my tongue on it, but do we think Marcus Smart coming back will have a negative impact on this team? Because when he's not on the court, we know that it's all going to be Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. They're going to be taking all the shots. But when Marcus Smart's on the court, he's going to have that mentality like, I can shoot too. Like, I don't hate, obviously, we love Marcus Smart and he's the heart and soul of the Celtics, but he does sometimes take those heat check shots when the other guys are hot just to prove that he's also an NBA player. What do you guys think about that?
I want to say I don't think we should be worried at all. I feel like last night proved how good of a team we really are. In essence, I know we played without Rob Will in the last series, which like could have been a question mark, but you never really know when we play without Rob Will. Now we do. But Marcus Smart was a big question because he's obviously defensive player of the year. That's our guy, and that's a very key point into our defense. We talked about it a while ago, kind of being like an anchor almost, playing in that middle. But I think that proves how good we are as a team. And when he comes back, I feel like we should be even more dangerous after winning game two. Like game two is a must-win game for us, but now we play on Saturday. Like that's 4 or 5 days away from now. Well, 4 days now, 5 days from yesterday, which is very, very, very long time. Like I don't want to say it's a must-win game for us on Saturday, but I feel like it's a transition point in the series where they're playing so far away from each other. Like we can't stop what we're doing now. Like we caught a little bit of fire. We need to consistently do that because now the Bucks are at home. We can catch them sitting back comfortable first game back at home.
Yeah, and I mean, you're right saying that game three is not a must-win game. But one of those games, game 3 or 4, one of those are must win. And game 3 is the perfect opportunity, Will, because you're right. They have 3 days of full rest, like you said, 5 days in between, or 4 or 5 days in between games. And as for Marcus Smart, it's the fact that if this was 2 years ago, I'd be terrified because Marcus Smart would be out here shooting 25, 30 shots a game. Marcus Smart shoots around like 15 to 20 now, and sometimes they're a little iffy. But when it comes down to what he actually provides for us, you kind of have to add and subtract the positives and the negatives. The positives is he's the defensive player of the year. And the fact that their second best player right now is Drew Holiday, and that's going to be his assignment. And the negatives is that sometimes he just takes those weird threes. But when it comes to the fourth quarter, and we saw it in the Nets series, especially game 1, we all said that that was a shot that Marcus Smart most likely would have taken, right? But he didn't. So I have a lot of trust in Marcus Smart right now when it comes to actual moments of need that he's going to make the right decision. I think that he's matured a lot as a basketball player, and I think he's found his role very nice, and his role is to be one of the best players on the team, and that doesn't mean scoring 25 points a game. I think he's finally realized that, and I think that's a big positive for us, and that's a big reason why we're such a successful team come start or second half of this season, and I think that's going to carry on for the next few years. I'm really excited for the way that Marcus Smart has developed. He's kind of been a work in progress, in my opinion, when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. He hits his threes, right? Like he doesn't, I mean, he's not Steph Curry. He's not an excellent shooter, but he can take those threes and he's good for 1, 2, 3 makes a game. And when it comes to what he brings on the defensive side of the ball, I really don't think he's going to screw us over. I think Derek White is kind of literally the perfect bench guy for him. For when Marcus Smart is out, he fills right in. And then when Marcus Smart is back, it's like nothing really even happened. And I think the chemistry of this team is going to show as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the Celtics and the Bucks series, originally we all said 5-6, whatever.
We were riding on our highest of highs.
I think this has the perfect formula to be a great 7-game series. Like, I think they're just going to go back and forth each game, kind of, and then it's just like these are two great teams, and I think that the winner of this series will go to the finals. And
Agreed.
another series I think is just like awesome, and then the other two are not really good at all. But the Grizzlies and the Warriors, each game has been awesome. You know, I mean, the Celtics and the Bucks, they both kind of been blowouts, but they've been pretty good games, entertaining. But the Grizzlies and the Warriors are neck and neck down to the wire each game so far. I mean, in Memphis, the series is tied up 1-1. John Morant had a signature game, scoring 47 points last night, and he scored their last 15 down the stretch. What do we think about the Grizzlies and the Warriors? Because a lot of people kind of wrote the Grizzlies off, but Ja's kind of showing like, hey, we're here and we're gonna compete regardless of who our opponent is.
Yeah, so when it comes to the Grizzlies, they're a team that likes to go on runs, whether that be when Ja's on the court or off the court. When he's on the court, he's the one that does the run, right? And we saw that, like you said, he scored the last 15 points. And then remember in the Timberwolves series, he scored the last 13 points in a big closeout game as well. But the thing that scares me about this series for Memphis is the fact that they played almost a perfect game. And they're lucky that they hurt Gary Payton Jr. And I know that sounds messed up, but I'm not very happy with the way that Gary Payton Jr. went out. Gary Payton Jr. was ready to clamp John Morant this whole series, and I think they knew it. And I honestly think it was kind of intentional the way the way that I watched it, at least. And that's just what happens. Some people, I mean, do that, and it's not the greatest thing. Coach Kerr also commented on it. He said whether it's intentional or not, in the heat of playoff game, like that's just complete. And I think, I mean, he's just started going off once Gary Payton Jr. wasn't on him because that he is, I mean, one of the best young defenders in the league. But Memphis played nearly a perfect game, right? And that's the only reason, in my opinion, they won. I think that throw the numbers out of there, throw the standings out of there. Golden State's a better team than them. Golden State is hotter than them, and Golden State has better not only chemistry but experience as well. So I think that if John wants to go out there and drop 50 in Chase, is it Chase Center now, or is it still the Oracle? What's it
It's
called
Chase.
now in San
It's the
Fran?
Chase Center.
Yeah,
Chase Center.
if he wants to go drop 50 in Chase, I still think they'd lose. I don't see them winning a game in San Fran, and I think Golden State's going to win this one in 6. I really think that Golden State just has everything that they need, and Memphis doesn't really match up as well that you actually think they do, because Ja's not going to be able to do this night in and night out.
Agreed.
And it's this series. I don't know if everyone's kind of been watching, but this is a very physical series.
It is.
Like Draymond Green got punched in the eye yesterday, and he's a very emotional guy. Or punched, poked, whatever. Everyone was getting their eyes poked. First off, second of all, he's obviously like a very emotional player. He's walking off the court, flipping everybody off, and I feel like that's not covered at all compared to when Kyrie did it.
Yeah.
But they're just beating each other up. And if I'm Phoenix or Dallas, I'm like just licking my chops. Like these guys are going to be dead by the time that we face them in the next round.
Right. I feel
Yeah.
like if Memphis finds their way out of this, they're screwed. But I think Golden State set up that they want to play physical, and they're just going to keep playing physical. Like I said, they have a lot of experience. They know what it's like to play 4 physical series in an offseason. They've done it multiple times. Like when you think of the greatest series in the past 10 years, I think almost all of them, in my opinion, have the Warriors in them, and it's due to the fact that it's physical. And my favorite Warrior series are the ones that are physical, because you just see Steph Curry just like kind of slithering around, this physicality and his finesse in that game. That's where he takes over. He's going to take over in Golden State, and it's going to be one of the most impressive performances. I'm going to call it out right now. It's going to be such a physical game, and it's kind of like when there's a battle in the trenches in a football game, and then there's just this one running back that just doesn't get touched. Like it's gonna be exactly like that. Like everybody, it's a dogfight, but one person is just gonna carry everything over the hill. And I think Steph Curry is gonna do exactly that. I don't think there's anybody on this Grizzlies team that can actually match up toe to toe against Steph. And I know John Morant's there, but he's young, and he kind of reminds me of a young John Wall. Maybe a little bit better, but of course, John Wall dealt with injuries. And I just think that Steph literally is just going to take over, and I love him in these physical series because it's just art when you watch him like that, the way that he escapes that pressure.
I was honestly thinking the same thing. I was getting ready to say that I'm expecting Steph to come out, and we're going to see classic Steph back in action in this series, especially after Gary Payton getting injured. And I want to come out and say I feel like he should be suspended for almost the entirety of the series. Like I really think they should get him out, because I'm sorry, as anyone who's ever played basketball, like that foul is just completely unacceptable. You don't do that when someone's in the air. Right? It's just as simple as that. Doesn't matter how fast the game is going. You should know a little bit better to not do something like that, because you know as soon as you touch someone in the air like that, they're gonna get hurt very badly. Like there's not many occasions where someone doesn't come out very injured. But no, this is a classic physical warrior series, which is going to make this series very, very interesting. And like you said, Jeff, I'm ready for Steph to take over. I'm ready to see some old Warriors action back in this series, and I feel like we're going to see a lot of surprises.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you said you brought up the mid-air fouls. That should just be an immediate suspension. Like
Immediately, there should be no question about that.
I hate because obviously everyone loves physical basketball. Everyone says like let the boys play. If you take someone out in midair, you know damn well what you're doing. Like
Exactly.
one of the first things that I think of is like Clemson versus Duke. I think this year or last year when a Duke player got a steal on a fast break, went up for a dunk, and the guy from Clemson took out his legs and he lands on his neck. And we actually saw basically the same thing, a little less of an extent with Maxi Kleber in the Suns and the Mavs game towards the end. He took a terrible fall that could have led to paralysis. Somehow he got right back up on his feet. But the slightest of touches when
Folded.
the slightest of touches when you're in midair, it is going to throw you off your balance because you have no control of you have no balance when you're jumping. So it should be an immediate flip. If it was Dylan Brooks, right? Who
Yeah.
yeah, that's an immediate flagrant 2 and a suspension for the next game, in my opinion. That's what it should be. But then JaVale McGee kind of nudges Maxi Kleber in midair, that should be a flagrant too. Like, I don't care how slightly you touch him. If you touch somebody in midair and you aren't going for the ball and you're just going to touch him because he's in the air, you should be thrown out of the game. Like, what basketball play are you doing there when you're nudging someone when they're dunking?
I wanted to say you never see a midair foul that's most likely unintentional. It's so rare. Like the only time where you see a midair foul that's intentional is both players going straight up. Like there's like if you're chasing someone down and you take them out, or if they blow by and you take them out midair, you're not making a basketball play. You're making up for your loss. Like you're not doing anything there to really help your team. You're just like, okay, well, screw it. He burnt me. Let me go out here and try to save the day here. But you're not going to save the day. That's a flagrant 2 every single day. Like you can't do that.
And that's a perfect explanation of exactly what happened between Dylan Brooks and Gary Payton Jr. Gary Payton Jr. Beat him to the hole, and he was going up for a dunk, and it's especially when it's a dunk because like you have so much momentum going towards the basket, you jump a little higher, and if you get touched, like you said, Stav, at all, your balance gets thrown off, and when your balance gets thrown off in midair, there's literally like I feel like it slows down. It's happened to me once before. I literally remember in a basketball game, I went up for a layup and I was in the air. I don't jump as high as Gary Payton Jr., obviously. But like I went up in midair and I got like straight up shoved and the kid got kicked out of the game. And when I was in the middle of the air, like everything just slowed down. I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like I didn't make the shot, by the way, because I was terrified. And then I fell. Luckily, I fell on my bottom, which I am a bigger guy, a lot of meat there, so I was completely fine. I got away safe with that. But like it's one of the most terrifying things, like in life, like because everything slows down, you have no control over anything, and it's like what's gonna happen? And I'm kind of upset, like with Dylan Brooks because you got beat. Like if you get beat, you just got to make up for it on the next one. You can't retaliate instantly in a physical, in a illegal way, because not only are you like screwing over your team, because that's a flagrant, that's another shot, and the Warriors get the ball back. It could have been a 5-point play, right? Maybe a 6-point play if they shoot a 3. So it's not only that, but now you might get suspended, which I think he should be suspended for the series. I think he should get a hefty fine. And I mean, come on, there's another guy who's playing in the NBA as well, Gary Payton Jr., who kind of made for a name for himself this year. Like this is another guy that's in kind of the not really exactly the same position, but he's an NBA player just like you. Now, I know like people like to say like I miss when the NBA was physical, but when it gets to the point where it's so intentional and you're putting another man's health at risk and almost life at risk when you're in the air, it's extremely upsetting to watch. And I really think that serious precautions should be taken against Dylan Brooks. Now, I love Dylan Brooks as a basketball player, but after that, it's very hard to like someone once they do that. And if you do it on national television, you're really not trying to help out your team. You're trying to help out yourself. Like you're trying to make it up to yourself because you got beat. Like it's as simple as that. That had nothing to do with trying to stop the play. That had everything to do with trying to be more of a man than Gary Payton Jr. is. It's just a stupid act.
Yeah, it sucks because like that's just unacceptable. It's like if I want to compare it, it's like kind of throwing purposely at your opponent's head in baseball. It's like trying to take out the knees of a quarterback after they've thrown the ball. It's just like a dirty play. There's no reason for it at all. And on a brighter note, let's just talk about the absolute dumpster fire of a series between the Heat and the Sixers because all right, the Heat are probably going to sweep them if Joel Embiid can't come back because DeAndre Jordan is just awful, and Doc Rivers loves to play him.
It doesn't make sense, right? Like it's because Doc was the coach of the Clippers when DeAndre Jordan was quote unquote good, which in my opinion, I don't think he was ever actually that good. When you have Chris Paul on your team and you're a center, like you're going to be good, obviously. Like JaVale McGee is awesome for the Suns when he comes in because Chris Paul is out there. Like DeAndre Jordan, I loved the Lob City Clippers. He's not good, right? He's 7'1". He's a bit athletic, but like you saw it in game 1, and game 2 is tonight, the night of the recording, which is Wednesday. And I'm not expecting much from him either this game. I think this is going to be a sweep. I think Bam Adebayo is going to go to work on him. And I think even if Joel comes back, he's not going to be 100%. I got this as a sweep no matter what. And Miami's kind of getting an easy road to the conference championship. And I think it's going to end right there. I think even though like they aren't going to be as fatigued as Boston or Milwaukee after this series, Boston and Milwaukee are just a beast that the Heat have not seen yet because they've had such an easy road. And this series, I watched game one, the first half, and honestly, I turned it off. Like I honestly hated this series, and I still hate this series, and I'm gonna continue to hate this series. And I don't like when they do a whiteout in Miami because everybody wears like the button downs and they look like they're like going to like a yacht party after. I'm not a big fan of this series, Will.
I'm not either. And honestly, at the end of the day, you have to take a look. And honestly, no offense to him, he brought a championship to our organization. But Doc Rivers is their head coach, and that is a big, big problem in this series. I don't expect them to win a game. I honestly, like you said, Griff, I'm expecting a sweep. Which honestly, we see we don't. I don't know how often we see it, but in my opinion, I feel like we see this kind of often. Team gets an easy road right to the Eastern Conference Finals or Western Conference Finals. I don't know if it happens too much in the Western Conference Finals, but I want to say in the Eastern Conference Finals, we see they get an easy road, and then we look and see at the Eastern Conference Finals, it's an absolute dogfight. And usually the team that has the easy road is really not in it to win it at that point. They think they got it easy because they have so many days of rest. They have this, but really, I'm expecting Miami to win this year, so I'm just going to go out and say Miami wins. And whoever they play out of the Celtics or the Bucks, they're in for something that they have not yet ready to see. Like they're getting themselves into something they're not going to be able to win at all. So
it's 100%, and the path to the finals, hypothetically, so far for the Heat, the Hawks, who, in my opinion, are a terrible basketball team. Like we've said this all throughout the first round as well, that they just can't. They're like a glorified AAU team. They don't play defense. They just huck terrible shots. They actually beat the Heat in one of the games, which, if I was a Heat fan, I'm embarrassed that happened because the Heat are a much better team. And then the 76ers without Joel Embiid and with James Harden, who just hates playing basketball, Tyrese Maxey, who hates James Harden, and Doc Rivers, who loves DeAndre Jordan, who DeAndre Jordan sucks at basketball. So there's nothing going well. And then Tobias Harris exists too, but you'll never hear his name.
He doesn't, though.
Yeah, he exists, but he
never
doesn't.
hear his name in the playoffs. Never hear his name in the playoffs.
And then if your sixth man is George Niang, like I don't know. It's just the Sixers. I love how the Sixers fans like thought they were going to go to the finals with absolutely no depth whatsoever, because they got rid of Seth Curry, who was probably their second best player during like the Embiid like dominant run in the first half of the year, and they got rid of who else did they get rid of? Andre Drummond, who was a great backup center, like was a starter for the Nets. And
that's someone you want on your team,
yeah,
in
like,
my opinion. Like especially in the playoffs, like you have to think about your team as a whole. Like he's an excellent rebounder. Like
yeah,
like
and he
he's
did pretty good
literally
against the season that round one.
I know. And then like there's been so many highlights of him playing well for the Nets and like actually doing well. So like I don't know why you would even I don't know. Honestly, it's so questionable out in Philly right now. I don't really get what's going on there. That series is an absolute mess.
There's no way James Harden returns next year. Like,
which is wild to think about though, like on a completely different like topic. It's just like
in 3 years.
Exactly. Like he's been on so many different teams and like I don't even know where like he doesn't honestly fit anywhere. Like
he doesn't.
back when we were looking at different things and I remember saying like, oh, that like before he went to the Nets, I was like, damn, maybe he'd be good like for the Celtics if we needed a piece, you know what I mean? Like just fitting him into the lineup because at that point we were a little bit desperate, I'm not gonna lie. Like
yeah.
We need to think about different moves and different opportunities. And like at that point, I was like, I don't even see him fitting on this team. I don't really see him fitting anywhere. I mean, it's really questionable where he's
wherever James Harden ends up going. I mean, Philly could offer him a max contract in which he really doesn't deserve. But if I'm James Harden, I would take that right away. If someone offers me a long-term max deal, like give me that money, because he's probably not going to get that anywhere else unless it's a desperate market team. Like I don't know what his philosophy is necessarily, if he's chasing a bag or chasing a ring, because I don't know if he's chasing a ring because he leaves Brooklyn, left Brooklyn. I mean, that trade, I think I said this when it first happened. that's going to be the first lose-lose trade in the NBA where both teams lose because both.
Yeah.
I mean, like, look
I
at
have
the
one.
Nets. Like Ben Simmons didn't play. They got worse because they couldn't score other than Kyrie and KD. And then the Sixers, Harden just hates basketball, and you lose your backup center who Joel Embiid said he loved to play with. Joel Embiid was on the JJ Redick podcast, I think a few weeks ago, and they were talking about Andre Drummond, how like because Embiid and Drummond had beef like right when Embiid started emerging onto the scene, and then Embiid's like, Andre Drummond being on my team allows me to like take a 10-minute break and be confident. All right, this guy's going to get the rebounds. This guy can get his points in the paint. Like I trust that we're not going to go down by 15, 10, 15 points when I get out because Andre Drummond's there to kind of step in and play a little short spurt while I recover. Now they don't have that. And now Joel Embiid's like, what the hell? So it's trouble in paradise in Philly. And if they somehow, if Joel Embiid can fix his face and reconstruct his brain so he doesn't have a concussion and he comes back and scores 60 points a game and they beat the Heat, then that's the only way that Embiid is his future
Can't
in
shoot with
Philly.
his hand.
Yeah, he can't even shoot with his hand. So he has to rewire his thumb, fix his brain, and fix his face. So if I'm Embiid, I think his contract expires in 2 years. I don't want to come back to Philly. Philly's done absolutely nothing for me, nothing
I can
to
guarantee
me.
you he should demand a trade if they get swept in the
And then
series.
Harden's gone, and Tyrese Maxey is the only good player on that team right now. So trouble in paradise for the Sixers. And then I don't know. I really don't have anything else to say. I mean, the Heat, yeah, they're a pretty good team, I guess. Like they
I
just
mean, like, you know what you're going to be getting from the Miami Heat at all times. Like, they are a team that like just runs you to death, and Tyler Hero gets some big buckets. But just
Six
my
man of the year,
wrapping up,
actually.
just that just got released yesterday. Just wrapping up my finishing comments on the 76ers. We've talked about this many times with many different people, and a name that I remember very well. Two of them actually is Russell Westbrook and Ben Simmons. We always talk about the Sacramento Kings, right? Because it's like a low market team where they can just go and get points and just do whatever they want, and they're not actually going to win. That's where James Harden should go. He should go to a team that literally doesn't matter, right? Because James Harden's not a winner; he's a scorer, and he's one of the best scorers that like we've ever seen. His step back is crazy. He's a lefty shooter. Like he's awesome to watch in the regular season, but he's not a postseason NBA player. There is definitely a difference between a postseason and a regular season NBA player. The postseason players are the ones that get the job done, and the regular seasons are the one that are like fun to watch, right? Like it's interesting. You like to watch them here and there. It's like Russell Westbrook, his explosiveness and all of that. James Harden's the direct definition of that. So whenever he goes to a contending team, in my opinion, I've noticed this throughout the years, he's made them worse. The only team that he's really helped out is that Thunder team. And the reason he did that is because he was a six man. He wasn't even at this point of superstardom that he's at now. And sometimes it gets to people's heads, and I'm not a person to really talk about people's heads and their egos, but James Harden has one of the biggest egos in the NBA, and we see it. People with egos, when you're playing a team sport, I mean, I don't even think I need to finish that sentence. It just makes too much sense, right? Like, if you have an ego and there's four other people on the team, you're not going to be successful. And James Harden is a direct definition of that. The Joel Embiid has about 15 different injuries right now. Not my MVP. That's the reason why he didn't win it. Maxi's the best player on that team when it comes to reliability. You know what you're going to get from him, and that's 110%. Tyrese Maxi's a guy that I could see starting on any team, and I hate Philadelphia. And I actually laughed when you said it's trouble in paradise stuff. Philadelphia is anything but a paradise. And I think that Tyrese Maxey is the one Philadelphia 76er in the past 10 years that I have actually enjoyed watching, and I actually enjoy as a person. He's just a guy that like he's a winner, right? And he just wants to win, and that's
Can
what you
tell
love
he
to
wants to
see.
win.
Exactly, and not to say that Joel Embiid doesn't, because Joel Embiid,
Oh,
as much as we
100%.
hate him, and as much as he shoots his free throws, he does want to win, right? But
loves
when
free
you join
throws.
someone alongside James Harden, you see Tyrese Maxey, who about keeping it inside. He doesn't like him. He doesn't like James Harden. And you know what? I bet Joel Embiid right now doesn't like him that much either. And he said it last series. He wants James Harden to be more aggressive. James Harden doesn't want to be more aggressive because he wants to play for 5, 10 more years so he can get his bag and he can score more points. He's not a winner. That's all I have to say. I'm getting upset, Will.
Honestly, the last thing I want to say, James Harden is 32 years old. I want to say I feel like, if anything, he has already surpassed that playoff mindset player
Yes.
because of the experience. I want to say the experience is what's really setting him back, because Steph is 34 years old, only 2 years difference. Steph has rings. One, Steph is also nowhere near the likes of James Harden. But in terms of age and someone who's about to get it done, as we're saying in this series against Memphis, which is an absolute dogfight, we're like, Steph is still consistently playing well, and James Harden is 2 years young, and James Harden has won an MVP, and he's been known to drop numerous amounts of points throughout a season. I remember that crazy run that he had where he was dropping over 35 points a game. That was also, I believe, his MVP year. But then he steadily fell off after those times. I don't really want to give too much benefit of the doubt here, but if anything, he's either doing this so he can just get moved again, or he genuinely fell off and is having a problem with his game, or because of his age, the way his play style is, it's really not translating into today's NBA anymore. That whole ISO ball we've seen doesn't really, really work. We see Trae Young kind of doing the same thing, and we saw where they are. They're back at home, just like the 76ers will be by the end of this week.
Very true.
And it's kind of piggybacking off of what everyone's been saying. Where does James Harden even fit right now? Like,
Nowhere.
I'm trying to think of random teams that would be like, James Harden is our missing piece, because what does he like? This is kind of like going off of what we were saying before about like weighing out the pros and cons of guys who are hurt, like Marcus Smart. The pros outweigh the cons. But when you bring in a guy like James Harden, there are so many cons, but yet there are a lot of pros too, where if he's going to play that level that we saw 4 years ago, which was the last time that he actually helped his team, like when they went to the conference finals and lost to the Warriors after they missed 55 threes in game 7, that was their last chance. That was the last chance James
Arguably
Harden
one of the
had.
worst games I think I've
100%.
ever watched.
Yeah, that game was awful. And it's just like, what is there a team that could use? I mean, the only team that I think of is the New York Knicks, who would sign James Harden to a max deal, but like that's not going to help them. It's only going to put people in the stands.
Honestly,
So,
I feel
think-
like he would be better off in a low market city where he can thrive.
I
Because
agree.
remember, when he
Just like
rose
he was
to
in
the scene,
Houston.
he was in Oklahoma, and like he was in Houston.
Awesome.
I feel like he could genuinely help a team that's one young, looking for a vet who can score. And if he just recognizes that role, I feel like he will actually be very successful again, and we'll actually be talking good things about James Harden once again. I feel like if he can find a team, I can't think of one on the top of my head. I would need a few minutes to really take a look at rosters here. But like, if we look at a team that's young, really missing a veteran, and then need someone to give them buckets consistently, and don't really, they like he can't be the star player that all the expectations are on, even though he is James Harden. He needs to lay off of that stardom for like a year before he can really transition into his role.
No, like I'm actually looking at like teams right now, and I've been looking since Stav brought it up, and I literally cannot tell you a single team in the Eastern or the Western Conference where he could fit in and make a good impact, not only for himself and not only
Orlando?
for the team, but when you think of younger players, Will, do you really want James Harden shooting 30 to 40 shots a game when he's at 32 years old and you have a young roster behind him? Because I don't. I'd rather have my guys progress. Like maybe somewhere like Washington where Brad Beal's already there, that's already a dumpster fire. Maybe they
that
can
would be
be an 8
that
seed.
would be a nightmare with James
That would
Harden
that would be
and
a
Bradley Beal.
nightmare. Both of them trying to drop 50 points a game for no
Yeah.
reason. I mean,
But like that's
honestly,
what they
I
did
was
with
saying,
Russ and James Harden, and then CP3 and James Harden. Like it just never worked. It's never gonna work.
yeah.
And I would love to see him go to the Lakers because his career is ready to die, and he's gonna pull a Russell Westbrook, and he can just go to LA and not win a ring. And like if he goes to LA, hypothetical situation, if he goes to the Lakers next year, he's going to be a bad basketball player. It's going to be the same exact thing with what happened to Russell Westbrook. I think those guys are super comparable when it comes to that. Like he's going to, if he goes to another contender, then we're going to be like, wow, James Harden actually isn't good at basketball.
Well, realistically here, what I said and what we're thinking of him going to a small market team is most definitely not going to happen. He's going to go to a contender. He's most likely going to go to someone who is probably either in the Eastern or Western Conference Finals, who takes a serious hit after free agency, and they're like, oh, well, we need to compete. James Harden is looking to get traded. He's going to go to a team that's losing a lot of people in free agency the following year, and they're going to make trades, and they're going to make moves, and we're going to see something stupid happen, and we're going to see a team that was probably decent fall off or either succeed in a very weird manner.
Very true. That's very true. James Harden is a guy that we look at, and I don't think he's good for the locker room. I don't think he's good for a team. He's really just good for himself. But moving on, speaking of a team that plays basketball, is the Phoenix Suns, who kind of brought back the trend of playing as a team, and it's kind of hooked on. They're playing against the Dallas Mavericks in a series. The funny thing about this is, how it's like we have 4 series right now. It's the conference semifinals. In my opinion, the Suns and the Miami series, I'm not really as interested in those series as I am on the Celtics and the Warriors series. So I'm kind of upset that the Celtics and the Warriors both play on the same day. I just wish we could spread it out and actually watch entertaining basketball on both days. The most entertaining thing, and this is going to sound messed up, is Maxi Kleber's fall. This is the only thing I've actually seen on like social media when it comes to this series. And Luka Doncic is a guy that I always think about, and it's a bad thing when you think about him, because when you think about him, it's like, what is he doing? Because you see that he drops like 30 points, but it's like, why don't I see any of this, right? And the Mavericks are a definition of that. And Mark Cuban built a team around him that I will never understand, like where they actually thought this was going, where Jalen Brunson is like low-key their best player. And I love Jalen Brunson from Villanova. He had a great run there. And he's like a cool player to watch. But when it comes to this Mavericks team, and I'm guessing this series is going to be a sweep stuff. When it comes to this Mavericks team, what is a piece that you actually think that they could realistically make come this offseason to be a contender? Because at this point, Luka's still young in his career, and it's like they really haven't done much to help him.
I love Jalen Brunson, but I just don't think that he's the right player to surround with Luka. So Luka's your point guard. He's your playmaker. You need to put 3-and-D guys around, and you need one more playmaker. If I'm Luka Doncic, I know it's not really possible, but like Nikola Jokic needs to be on my team, or I need to be on Nikola Jokic's team, because like the European comparison, but those are 2 guys who are excellent playmakers and can make everyone around them better. And Maxi Kleber is actually a pretty good player. Like I think he's a good 4. He's a good shooter, and he can defend. He's like, I mean, he had a horrific fall, but we were talking about but he's a tough guy. Like that's a guy who I want on my team. Dinwiddie's all right, but this team is very guard heavy when they need more bigs, because DeAndre Ayton's kind of getting whatever he wants. So like the Kristaps trade is making less and less sense as the season progresses, but Kristaps isn't really that guy anymore. So it's like, what are they going to do? I don't know, but it's just give Luka whatever pieces he needs, and Mark Cuban can afford it. So I don't want to hear any salary cap BS.
Honestly, this might be a little bit off the scale here, but like Stoff said, I do agree that they're a little guard heavy, but why not cash in with what they're doing right now with the players that they have and upgrade a little bit? And I feel like, I know we talked a little down on him after their series, and a big breakup's about to happen in Utah. Why not acquire Donovan Mitchell in a trade? Why not pair them up together? I feel like that would be a really, really good duo, and then go budget for forwards and big men and kind of make moves around that. Because if you're like hypothetically, like Griff said, I feel like this series is kind of over. I don't feel like the Mavericks are going to win this series. So they have the pieces that took them this far. If they just kind of cash in a couple pieces of what they have and upgrade a little bit, I feel like they can be the team like the Suns this year. So I feel like Donovan Mitchell could be a solid guard to have paired up with Luka.
Yeah, and that's a good name to throw out there, because you're right. Well, there's going to be changes made in the Utah Jazz organization, whether that be Donovan Mitchell, whether that be Rudy Gobert. And I think of Rudy Gobert, I don't think I'd want him in Dallas. And I like the idea of Donovan Mitchell, because what I was thinking is you need to pair Luka up with athletes, because yes, he's like athletic, you could say, Luka, but he's one of the most like unathletic, people say, superstars in this league. Like when you see guys like John Morant, and Donovan Mitchell jumping out of the gym, that's not at all what Luka does. And if you just paired him up, imagine with like 4 just extreme athletes around him, that would give him so much freedom to kind of calm down on what he's not good at and kind of take a less focus off of making up for what he's not good at because everyone else around him is good. I think they need a good defensive guard. I don't think they really have that. And you can say Spencer Dinwiddie, but I just don't think he's as good as he was when he was on that Nets team that was young with D'Lo. He was so good on defense. I don't see that now. I really don't. And I think when it comes to those bigs, I like every big on that team. I just don't like them actually on that team. Like they don't have like a solid 7-footer, and the Celtics don't either. But we have Rob Will, who might as well be 7 foot, and
His
Al Horford.
athleticism makes up for that.
Yes, and they don't really have anybody. Like when I think of their starting center, I think it's Dwight Powell. Dwight Powell's not going to do anything against DeAndre Ayton. Literally nothing. And I noticed that I went to a game this year and it was Mavs Celtics, and our centers were literally just outbodying them. If you outbody a Celtic center who's 6'9", what are you going to do against someone like DeAndre Ayton, who's up for a max contract? And Rob Will wasn't even playing that game. I'm literally talking about Al Horford, who just outbodied him. And Al Horford wants it more, but like at the end of the day, Al Horford's 6'9". Like he's not that big. They need some height and they need some athleticism to surround him, and they need some shooting. And that's honestly not like big asks, in my opinion. Everybody can shoot. A lot of people are athletic, and you can find a 7-footer out there somewhere. And I don't think Rudy Gobert's the guy because that would just slow down that game a lot. And I don't like the thoughts of a pick and roll between Luka Doncic and Rudy Gobert. Man, I think Rudy Gobert should go somewhere where James Harden is, just so we can just like watch them burn together and just like completely waste away their careers. If Rudy Gobert is not a championship center, he's like, this isn't. Yeah, I think he'd be great in like the mid 70s, not even the 80s or the 90s. Rudy Gobert is one of my least favorite players in the league, also. So like when it comes to that Jazz breakup too, like Donovan Mitchell is the piece that the Mavs would really capitalize on. And there's a couple other guys, if they really want to blow up that Jazz organization, just ship them over to Dallas. And I like the thought, Stav, when you brought up Jokic, not Jokic coming to the Mavs. I would love to see Luka on that Nuggets team with Jamal Murray fully healthy and the bench that they have and Will Barton. I think that he would actually fit in very well over there. And I think that the coaching that they have over there is a lot better. Who's the Mavs coach right now? Is it Jason Kidd?
Yeah. I mean, I think who's the Nuggets coach is Mike Malone, right?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I think Jason Kidd's a pretty good coach. I think he's done a good job with this team this year, but obviously Mike Malone's done wonders with that Nuggets team. So I mean, we could get into offseason talk and talk about this for hours, but Will introduce us to the Sox because the season started over. We're 1-0.
So season started last night. Want to start us off that way. I feel like we reverse spoke this game into existence on the last episode. We completely just demolished our favorite team. We went in for a long time and we were just so upset. We were fed up, which rightfully so. I feel like rightfully so. And that's why I'm continuing what the Angels had here. I'm hoping like negative energy will bring positive energy, which doesn't make any sense. But like
it's on the YouTube so you can see Will wearing an Angels hat.
Yeah, like I want the Sox to win, don't get me wrong here, but I feel like, light a fire under their ass for once because they're not playing with any emotion. And we started off the Suns with a team that's playing like a team. We played like a team last night. We genuinely played like a team last night. Now tonight, actually, no, we'll talk a little bit about last night. We won 4-0. We won 4-0. Sourmore ended the game. He struck out Ohtani, which is actually, me and Griff were talking about this. He won me a little bit back after striking out Ohtani. That was.
Can you say what I said to you? Because I don't want to say it. If you remember,
Griff still is not back on Hirokazu at all. He's not ready.
He was my favorite player. He's not.
He was. He was. I'm not saying he's fully back, but he earned about a quarter of it, maybe close to half back.
Nothing.
That was an important strikeout. We needed that. That was a good momentum. We saw all the fans excited that we actually saw something good. Like we had a great game last night. JD hit a home run. Rafi hit a no-doubter, which was actually a home run in every ballpark in the MLB.
Ever.
So we're looking great. What?
How about Michael Wacha? I mean, Michael Wacha is like, I feel like every single time this guy pitches, we say the same thing. This is the guy who is projected to be our fifth starter and to be in the bullpen when Chris Sale comes back. This guy's our second best pitcher right now.
Yeah.
And he's been playing lights out, giving the Red Sox quality starts. Not like the stat quality start, but like he's been giving them very good starts every single time. And what is this, his fourth start? And
Yeah.
he's been nothing but pleasure to watch. I mean, last night we saw what we addressed on Tuesday's episode of there's no power in the lineup, in which we hit 2 home runs. Finally, Trevor Story got an RBI, and Franchi Cordero went 2 for 3.
Big. And Bobby Dalbec came in the ninth to play defense, which was like
That's probably I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing there.
I think we're just getting them out there, just like we're not giving up on you fully yet. Because if you see your competition go 2 for 3, I'd be nervous. I'm low-key hoping this like lights a spark under Bobby
It won't.
Sacks. But it probably won't.
It's so frustrating, and I wanted to talk about our starting lineup tonight because I feel like it's a little bit interesting. I don't know too many changes from where it was last night, but Trevor Story's lead off. Then we got Rafi, Xander, JD, Kike, Verdugo, Vasquez, Bobby Dalbec, Arroyo, and Garrett Whitlock is our starting pitcher tonight against the Angels.
So I think I've said it on every single episode. I love Trevor Story leading off. I would like to see Xander be our 2-hole. That's something I haven't said on this yet. I don't know. I'd rather have Rafi have an opportunity to have 2 men on base than 3. But the whole analytical play that we talked about on the last episode, if you haven't checked that out, go listen to that. The whole analytical play says put Rafi at second. So cool. JD Martinez is a guy that I absolutely ripped last episode.
Glad he hit a home run.
For a good reason. And that's why he hit a home run. And he's a guy that's going to go on like these runs where he starts hitting. And I hope he's here to stay. I hope he stays healthy throughout this. Kike, still mad at Verdugo. Verdugo, I'm expecting a big week from him. Like I'm expecting the end of this series onto the next series where I believe we play the White Sox. I don't have it in front of me. I'm expecting him to do pretty good against these 2 teams. And if he doesn't, I'm going to be kind of upset because he started off pretty hot. CVAC, you know what you're going to get from him. Bobby Dalbec stinks, and I love Christian Arroyo. I absolutely love Christian Arroyo. I don't know why he's not batting awesome, but Christian Arroyo is a guy that, like, when it comes to, like, hitting, I just like him in the batter's box. Like, he hits singles, he hits doubles. Sometimes he hits it out of the park, but not often. But he's a guy that I like to see on base. I just feel like when I'm watching Christian Arroyo, he's giving it all he has, and that's really all you can ask about. Last night, though, Tuesday night, JBJ went 2 for 3 as well. Like, he had a pretty good game. And that's something you need to see from the bottom of our lineup. We know it wasn't good. We knew at the beginning of the season that our bottom of the lineup wasn't going to be great, and we knew that they needed to step up. But to start the season, guys, no one has been great. This has been, I want to say that Angels game was probably our best game of the season so far. I don't know if you guys are going to agree with me or not, but all around, putting up 4 runs and shutting out the Angels, who are hot right now. They were 15-9 going into that game, shutting them out and going up against Syndergaard, who's a $20 million pitcher a year. I'm very happy with that performance, and I'm going to be right in front of my laptop screen watching the game tonight as well. And I hope that Whitlock can secure a W. And I want to see Whitlock as our starting rotation, and I want to see him really go deep into games like 5, 6, 7 innings, because he was a starter when he was coming up in the Yankees farm system, moved him to the bullpen so he could get called up to the league. Now's his time, and I want to see him capitalize on that opportunity.
The other thing I wanted to note too is our next series against the White Sox, which is a team very much like us right now, where they're expected to be better than what they're playing like right now, and I feel like we match pretty evenly with them, and I'm expecting we win this series. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's the White Sox are one of those teams that I feel like are always going to be scary just because they have like pop in their lineup, and it's always going to be like, you know what I like. They have solid pitching, they have a good closer. All this, it's just one of those teams where it's like you're scared to face them. And I feel like they always do well against the Red Sox. But this would be a huge series win if the Red Sox could pull it off. And hopefully they can ride some momentum through. I think tomorrow's an Ohtani start.
Yeah, not Wednesday night, but Thursday night's an Ohtani start.
Yeah, Thursday night.
Actually, we only played the Angels. Oh no, we do play the Angels. Never mind. I thought we only had a 2-game. I thought we only had a 2-game against the Angels. That's my fault.
So if they can kind of rough up Ohtani a little bit, that could really bring some momentum to this team. This team needs something to be happy about, and I mean, they definitely listen to the show. At least that's a positive. I mean, the Red Sox are listeners to our show. They listened to what we said. They said, all right, we need to hit home runs because the guys from Inside the Five said so, and they did. And they said, all right, we got to start Franchi, so let's do it. And they listened to us. So Red Sox, if you're listening, call up Tristan Cassis. I mean, they are listening. So just
also speaking of prospects.
Wait, Will, can I actually get a second?
Yes.
If they're listening, like Stav just said that they were, and I believe Stav and I trust him. I'm a sophomore, a sport management major. And we said to start Franchi, went 2 for 3. So if you guys are hiring, let me know. I will drop out of school if that means that I get a job instantly with the Red Sox. So just I'm keeping my email open. You guys know where to find me. Thank you, Will, for letting me have that time.
Yeah, no, of course. Definitely hire my man Griff over here. 2, speaking of prospects, the MLB came out with their top 100 prospects, and our boy Marcelo Mayer landed 14 out of the top 100.
Oh wow, I didn't see that.
I did not see that. Who's number 1? Is it still Adley Rutschman?
It's actually Bobby Witt. Adley Rutschman's number 2, which
Royals.
this list doesn't really. I don't like. I guess
Bobby Witt's he's an everyday starter.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Well, that was like last year. That was like last year when they were like Wander Franco's the number 1.
Yeah, Wander Franco.
And I was like, they didn't name him the number 1 until he was actually in the MLB. So
yeah, it's weird how they do it that way. But like, I thought that was very interesting. But the only reason I like looked it up, one, because I looked under our injury report and it was listed as he was day to day, and I was just kind of confused because I was like, he's just not on our 38-man roster.
No, he's not.
That's why I was like,
Double A is in single A still. I think he's in Double A and he's killing it.
Yeah, he is in Double A right now. But it was literally him and Josh Taylor. But I was just like, why is he on? Like, he's literally on. Like, if you go on ESPN, it literally says Marcelo Mayer, shortstop, day to day. I'm just like, why is he here? I'm like, I was confused. I was like, did he get called up? Like, what is going on?
And if we're going to be talking about prospects, big day Sunday. I know Will was at Polar Park for the Worcester Red Sox. We saw 2 of our better prospects hit back-to-back home runs. Jeter Downs hit a home run, actually hit somebody in the face that was sitting in the left field berm, literally hit them in the face. And then Tristan Casas hit an absolute nuke. But like, honestly, at this point every game, I'm expecting Tristan Casas to hit 500-foot bombs. So I'm ready to see Casas literally any day now, and I know we're not going to get it, but I'm just letting everybody know I am so ready for Tristan Casas because the league isn't ready for Tristan Casas.
Okay, 100%. Going back to this top 100 list, 3 of the top 4 guys are all in the MLB.
Yeah, I know. That's why
Bobby Witt is number 1.
They're everyday guys.
And then it goes to Adley at number 2, who's in Double A. J-Rod at 3.
Is he in Double A or Triple A now? Adley.
They have the MLB website has him listed in Double A.
Okay.
And then J-Rod at 3, who's an
everyday starter. Yep.
Spencer Torkelson.
Great catch the other night by the way.
And Torkelson, who's also an everyday starter, contributing a lot. CJ Abrams at number 9, another everyday starter until Tatis.
I'm pretty sure Riley Green plays for the Tigers now.
I think he does.
And Shane Baz he started all of last year. How is he a prospect?
Yeah, and then also I think Hunter Green is here too. O'Neal Cruz, who actually I believe is the starting shortstop for the Pirates right now, is.
I mean, the Pirates are a Double A team anyway. So
I know, but still though, like what kind of prospect we're talking about? These like everyday guys.
Hunter Green, 21, who's just absolutely tearing up for the Cincinnati Reds. There's a lot of names though. Like if you know these names, then
our boy Casas is 16. He's 200.
I was about to say two in the top 20. I'm surprised that Mayer is actually ahead of him. Jaron Duran somehow found his way on this list.
83.
I
All right,
don't
hold on.
like Jaron
And
Duran.
I'm at the bottom of the list. Jeremy Pena is 99. How is he 99 when he's another everyday starter for the Astros? How is he 90? How is he not at the
He's
top of
literally
this
good.
list?
He's literally
in
good.
the MLB. How is he lower?
He's literally good.
All right.
Jaron Duran made 83, but we have some random guy. I don't even know who he is. Nick York, the second baseman.
Oh no, I know Nick York.
York,
I don't.
No, Nick York. He's a good ball player. He'll get.
No, he's a good prospect. He's a good prospect.
Yeah, like awesome player.
But
yeah, no, like this list makes no sense at all.
I'm happy with the way that our farm is going because if you think about like 3 years ago, like we had one of the worst farm systems like in the league, like in terms of prospects. And just out of nowhere, like these guys just turned up and like we got Duran, we got Jeter Downs, who isn't on this list, but I think he's pretty good on defense. And then Casas just came out of nowhere, and we got a great pick in Marcelo Mayer. And I think a big part of that was the move from Pawtucket to Worcester, and we're Massachusetts guys. So like obviously we're gonna like hype up Worcester. So like when it comes to that, like I actually think it was actually a big move to like go to like a new stadium in a bigger market. It kind of showcases these players as well, and we're getting to see a lot of more of these players. Like when I was little and growing up, like I didn't go to a lot of Pawtucket Red Sox games or Paw Sox or whatever you call them, but like in Worcester, like these guys are being put on like a showcase. Like we're seeing them on Instagram, we're seeing them on Twitter. Like the Red Sox literally retweeted Tristan Costas' home run, and like I'm excited to say the least about what we have brewing up in our farm system, whether that be Portland, Salem, or Worcester.
I was gonna say also I learned something today about the Blue Sox. I was randomly in the car, the radio was on, and they were playing away. They're actually playing teams out of their division right now. Like that was apparently like a COVID rule. I think we talked about it briefly for a couple of seconds on one of the past episodes. How I was like, I have no idea why they don't play certain teams. It was literally because of COVID. They were only playing teams in their division.
Yeah, so I mean, like we're gonna see how these prospects turn up. Or turn out, excuse me. But I mean, the Red Sox, after a good dub, we'll see how they do. Come the rest of the series against the Angels, and then carrying that on to the White Sox. Got a little homestand, so that's good to see. You love to hit bombs at Fenway Park, so we'll see how that goes. But to wrap up this episode, we got a couple of things, just two things from the NFL. The first one is pretty big news, in my opinion, actually huge news, and that's the fact that Deandre Hopkins has been suspended for 6 games to start this NFL season. The reason he was suspended was he tested positive for 3 illegal performance enhancing drugs. Very hard English so difficult. We've talked about it before. But DeAndre Hopkins, guys, like this is a big surprise to me. I don't know if anybody else is as surprised at like I am, because DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best wide receivers in the league, Stav. So why is he taking performance enhancing drugs?
I think it's hilarious. After every single time someone gets busted for PEDs, they're like, I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. You are the bottom of this. What are you like? I know your PR team probably like 6 PEDs. Like if it's 1 or something like that, and someone told you to take something that you didn't know was something like that, but 6, it's like, dude. Wait, did he take?
I feel like it could go both ways. I feel like he either took something that had multiple different things.
I might have completely just mixed up. I don't think did he get caught? Yeah, he got 3. I got
3.
Okay.
I feel like
still,
he either
still
took
more
something.
than yes.
He either took something that had multiple things in it, and he's like being serious. He had no idea, or he generally took 3 different PEDs and just was like, I don't know. I feel like the timeline just makes no sense because he tested like in the blurb or whatever. Was this something that he wrote? I'm assuming
he posted this on Twitter. Yes.
Yeah. So in November, his test came back, but in December and January he was negative, which I'm pretty sure you can still test positive for them for a little bit.
I'm not like educated on
I honestly don't know, but like it doesn't make sense.
Drugs. But DeAndre Hopkins, just to say what he put on Twitter. First off, he captioned this, "See you week 7," and then he said he was going to get to the bottom of this. So I don't actually think he's going to get to the bottom of this. He literally just said, "I'll see
Oh,
you
he
week
is the
7."
bottom of it.
He said, "I'm very mindful of what I put into my body, and I've always taken a holistic approach." The NFL ban list is actually like there is a lot of things, not only just drugs but supplements, and they're put under a category of performance enhancing drugs. So like it's not like we're saying that he took steroids. Like he could have straight up just taken pre-workout and it had something in it that the NFL doesn't allow, but it's actually not that bad, and that's why I don't think like he was shooting up anything in a sense, and I don't know if that's like inappropriate to say, but that's how you take steroids. Not that I don't take steroids. I don't. I
Not that you don't take steroids?
Not even English is hard. I do not. You can test me. You can do whatever you have to do. I don't. I need to get that out of the way.
We're gonna have to get to the
But
bottom
like,
of this.
Will. But like D-Hop, like you're I mean, 2 years ago, everybody knew you were the best receiver in the league, and then like Devontae Adams was awesome last year, Tyreek Hill was awesome last year. So like he's up there, top 30, if not top 30, top 5. I really don't think that he did anything on purpose, and it's been put on before. If you guys remember with Julian Edelman and I think Tom Brady as well with the TB12, there was like this supplement that was banned by the NFL. I think this is the exact same case as D-Hop. Like I actually don't think he was taking any like hardcore like steroids or anything. I think it was just supplements, like literally just like a pre-workout or like something that's put into that he took and he didn't know it was on the ban list. So I think it was just like yeah, he's gonna have to face the suspension, but it wasn't anything like too serious in a sense.
Yeah, that's where I was kind of getting at. I feel like it wasn't like intentionally, like he wasn't just like slapping some HGH to recover from his injury, and he was just like, "Yeah, let's just speed up this process." Like it's the off season here. Like he was like, like he was expected to start week 1. I'm assuming, right? I don't think there was any
Yeah,
question
he
about
was.
that with his injury. Yeah, so I feel like there would be no hypothetical reason. Like he, like I don't know. In my eyes, I feel like there would be no reason for him to be like he's already top wide receiver. Like I don't see the benefit. I feel like it definitely had to be like some kind of substance,
Exactly.
like you said, like a pre-workout or anything
Like a
like that,
supplement,
or
like a supplement,
yeah,
not
like
a
whatever
drug, but a
sub.
supplement. But it's
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
categorized under a performance enhancing drug, which makes it sound a
Yeah,
lot worse. But there's a lot of supplements on that
it
list as
it
well.
definitely didn't even like do anything. It maybe just like it probably didn't even do anything that he like it you shows up like I don't like well it did, but like you know what I'm trying to say.
It shows up, but it's not something that actually like is
It's
making
not
his
like
muscles
Barry
bigger,
Bonds
making him
juicing and he's hitting
faster.
like 550 feet home runs.
Barry Bonds didn't juice well.
All
My
right.
bad.
I think this is a good segment to get. I know we don't swear on this podcast, but Ryan Tannehill is such a loser.
He's an asshole. Like
Yes.
we swear on this
Okay.
podcast because he's an asshole.
Yeah.
And it's stupid. It's
I
stupid.
have
I
a little
hate it.
after you finish with what you're. I have a little tangent I want to say like
And
about
I
Ryan
like Ryan
Tannehill.
Tannehill. I don't actually think he's that good of a quarterback. I just think he fits very well with that Titans team because they have uh Derrick Henry, like right behind him. And he had a good season last year, right? But like, first off, this was during like a whole like therapy thing like that he was talking about as well. Where like he took this playoff loss really difficult and he had to go to like therapy and stuff like that, which happens, right? And then you just go into like literally right after he was talking about his mental health, he was like, "Yeah, it's not my job to help mentor Malik Willis." Like, why not? If you are a big like fan of your team in general, like if you want your team to succeed, you have to look at what's going to happen in the future. And Ryan Tannehill, who's 33 years old and isn't like anything special in my opinion, he doesn't have that much longer in the league. Like he's not going to play till he's 40. He's not Tom Brady. Like my guess is he's got 2 or 3 more years. Like and he's playing at the top of his whole career. Like he's playing as good as he's ever played. But I'm expecting him to not be here until he's 40. And Malik Willis is a guy that is so special. If you think about it, has a lot of raw talent and could really use a guy to really boost him and really help him walk him through this whole journey as a young career. And Ryan Tannehill, before he said this, you would be like, wow, this is the perfect opportunity, right? Like Ryan Tannehill is going to go out, he's going to help this kid. And he's kind of taking an Aaron Rodgers approach where Jordan Love's career is completely off the table, in my opinion, because when you are a player that has raw talent, and Malik Willis is the definition of one of those guys, he's not established. He's a guy that has a lot of upside, but he's going to start a little bit lower than, say, a Kenny Pickett, who's kind of like league ready. You need the guy ahead of you to really help you out. And I think Tom Brady did a great job of that with Jimmy Garoppolo. And we saw it week in and week out. They would run out of the tunnel together. You knew they had a good bond. And Tom Brady wasn't scared for his job. I think a big part of this was Ryan Tannehill is scared for his job, but he shouldn't be this year because, like I said, he's going up against a guy with raw talent. He's not going to come in there and be a starter in the league right away. And I think it's just a dumb approach from him. If he really likes the Titans organization, this would be a big piece to help them for the future after they move on from Ryan Tannehill, because I think Tannehill is going to finish up his career here, and his career isn't going to last that much longer, stuff.
Well, I 100% agree with everything that you said. And on top of that, two things I want to say about Ryan Tannehill. One, if you're going to take this narrow-minded approach not to mentor your backup, a rookie backup, are you not confident that you can win the job? Like, I'm Ryan Tannehill. I'm a proven veteran starter in the NFL. Like, I've started on two teams. I've led the team to the or not necessarily led, but I've been the quarterback on this playoff team for the past 2 years. What in his mind is like, I'm not going to mentor this kid? Like, if I'm personally Ryan Tannehill, it's like I trust my abilities to the point where I'm going to help my teammates succeed. I don't care what position that teammate plays. Like, there's no reason for Tannehill to not embrace Malik Willis, because what does Ryan Tannehill, who does he think he is necessarily? Like, if you're scared that your backup's going to take your starting job, you shouldn't be the starter, first off. And then second of all, I wanted to talk about a little bit about Kurt Warner, what his thoughts were about this. I don't know if you guys saw this, but he was like, to any young quarterback that their starting quarterback says that they won't mentor you, I will mentor you. Please reach out to me. Like, I feel like that's a majority of ex-NFL quarterbacks that have had successful careers. They want to help the young guys, and that's why they were successful, because the quarterbacks, like most quarterbacks, don't go in and start right away. But a lot of them that have that transition year, like, do you think Alex Smith took that approach with Patrick Mahomes? Like, I'm not going to teach it. This kid doesn't, like, I'm better, like, blah, 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 blah. It's like, you are the quarterback. You are the captain of the team, basically. You are the head of the team. You do everything to make the team better, whether that be getting to know all your teammates, leading them, doing whatever. And if you're just going to pick one guy and just be like, yeah, I don't want to talk about him because he's my backup, what does that make you? Like, I don't know. I think that's a very narrow-minded, selfish approach.
I was going to say, stop. Ryan Tannehill is very selfish. And honestly, like, he has no meaning of respect behind those eyes that he said those words with about Malik Willis. He has no respect. He lost all my respect, one, which honestly probably doesn't even make a big difference. But, like, in general, lost all my respect. And in fairness, I feel like he lost about everyone's respect. And if I'm Malik Willis, I'm going out and I'm reaching out to any other quarterback who is willing to help him grow. And I'm there and I'm ready to kick Ryan Tannehill's ass for that starting job. And I'm ready to take over that team, because clearly you are not a leader of a team that wants to win and be successful if you're not prepared to help the guys around you be just as successful as you. You clearly don't want to win, and you clearly don't want to see your team succeed. It's clearly all about him. And it showed that he's very, very, very selfish in this manner, because he's literally a rookie. He just got drafted. He's not expected to take your position right away. Like, this is no offense to Malik Willis. I don't even think Malik Willis thinks he is out after his position. He's probably like, my time will be due when he is gone, or if he gets hurt, like something like along those lines. He's not out here trying to become some kind of menace backup quarterback to you, but now he is. Like, if I'm him, I would want to be. Like, honestly, unless he took this as a different approach to make him a different kind of person and make him like an absolute animal on the field, I don't really see that really being the reasoning why he said this. He very selfish act, and very disrespectful.
And I like the fact, Stav, I'm glad you brought up what Kurt Warner said. I think that Malik Willis should take advantage of that. I think Kurt Warner, when you think of him, he's a guy that literally is the definition of not a day one starter. Like he literally didn't make the league, come out of college, and he was bagging groceries. Like he knows exactly what it takes to start from the bottom and make your way to the top. He was an MVP, a Super Bowl champion, and I don't know if either of the two of you watched the movie that came out about him over Christmas break. It kind of just went into depth about where he came from and how he made it to the NFL. Like that is the perfect example of a guy that would literally be the most perfect person to be behind of in terms of being a backup quarterback. Malik Willis should definitely take advantage of that opportunity because Kurt Warner, like I said, he was bagging groceries out of college. He wasn't one of those guys that came in. And Tannehill is a guy that came in and was a day one starter for the Miami Dolphins after he was at A&M. And I think that a lot of these guys that are in the NFL and that were in the NFL are going to reach out to Malik Willis. I really believe that. And that's just going to make him that much better. And if anything, Malik Willis, if he has the right mindset, he is pretty much guaranteed to be a good NFL player at this point because he's gonna have so many people in his corner helping him out. Like I can't even imagine the amount of people that have already reached out to him. And Ryan Tannehill, you're right, Will. He was never a hateable guy because he never really talked. The first time he ever really went public with anything, it was over this BS, and it was just completely disrespectful. And it's the fact that he's scared for his job, and he shouldn't be right now. I think that Malik Willis's time will literally be whenever Ryan Tannehill is done. But now at this point, this is something that Malik Willis is going to snap on. And Malik Willis in that quarterback room, it's going to get really messy in that quarterback room. And my guess is that Malik Willis is going to come out of that on top. Not this year necessarily, but I have so much confidence now in Malik Willis to become a good quarterback just based off this. When you have to deal with some BS like this, like think
Chip
about
on
it.
his
You just
shoulder
got drafted.
mentality.
You got drafted a week ago. That's literally the biggest moment of your entire life. Like imagine being drafted. That's the biggest moment of your entire life. And you're like, wow, I'm going to go to a team that is a playoff team that has the best running back in the league and has a very good veteran quarterback. I'm going to learn a lot from this guy, right? I guess not because he's just a bad person. He's not a nice person. And it's just it's sad to see because it proves that Ryan Tannehill is selfish. He doesn't want Malik Willis to pan out clearly, and he doesn't want the Titans to be successful for years to come because when I draft Malik Willis, I'm looking for him to be a guy that in 3 years is going to be my starting quarterback for the next 10 to 15. And I just really think it was a dumb move.
Honestly, my last words. Sorry, stop. My last words is what Ryan Tannehill said is actually very sickening. That's really all I can say about that.
Yeah.
It's genuinely sickening, and you just like, I don't know, like it. Not even like you hate to see it, like you literally hate to see it, and you literally hate for someone to go out against someone and just be like, "Oh, I'm not going to help you. Like you don't deserve it. Like he literally just got drafted. Like that. Like he's obviously not a kid, but like he is."
My final thoughts on this before I kind of hand it off to Griff to close out. Malik Willis already had a chip on his shoulder. Now it should be even more. Like Will said before, if I'm Malik Willis, I'm like, F this guy. I'm coming for your starting job, and I don't need your help either. And if I'm Malik Willis, in a sense, I'm like, I'm going to be better than you at your own job too. So why do I even need your help if you're going to
Well,
come
they'd
out
be
and say
so
that?
cocky during training camp, during everything. At this point, it's just straight disrespect. There's no respect between the two, and I think that Malik Willis is a guy that like I didn't watch like a lot of games from him at Liberty because they didn't play like great teams, but I watched a couple. They played Coastal Carolina, which is my favorite football team, and he's a guy that likes to have a chip on his shoulder. He left Auburn, and there was big speculation upon that because he lost the job to Bo Nix, who's a very good quarterback. And now he's in a position where he's in a fight, right? He's in a full-on fight. And any day of the week when it comes to a quarterback competition, I honestly don't even care who Ryan Tannehill is going up against. I'm not taking Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's going to wrap up this episode. We hope you guys enjoyed. Last episode, I said we were going to see you guys after 3 Red Sox losses. we are already wrong, and we're recording this literally 2 days after we recorded the last episode. So who even knows what we're in for until next Tuesday. But yeah, once again, we hope you guys enjoyed. We will see you guys on Tuesday. Up the Reds. Go Liverpool. Liverpool, Real Madrid. Maybe we'll talk about it next week. But anyways, we'll see you guys, and peace.
Peace.